Hey guys, my name's Tuan. I am Heather's husband. I wrote a few things. I'm chewing gum. The faster I chew the gum, the less nervous I get, so bear with me. So, thanks for coming tonight for celebrating Heather's life. It's pretty terrific, right? Right? Yeah. All right. I've got to tell you, this has been one of the most emotional and difficult 2 weeks that I've ever experienced. Sucked. Can you say that in church? Sucked. I've had emotions and sadness I didn't even know existed. So everybody cried so hard that their teeth hurt, that you've had a headache for days. I never had. I have now. That said, please bear with me if I cry while I'm talking because, well, I will. Feel free to join me. It may help you cry too, and she's worth it. Gentlemen, we won't judge you if you cry too. Before I tell you about Heather, I'd like everyone to stand up for a minute here. Everybody stand up. We've been kind of sitting around for a while, so put your hands out in front of you. Wiggle your fingers. Everybody doing this? Now face your palms to each other. All right? What I'd like you to do next is slap those hands together and cheer as loud as you can for Heather. I want this house to rock and cheer. Yeah! Thank you. Go ahead and grab your seats. I was going to say that. Just go ahead and grab your seats. I'm about to cry. That was awesome. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my wife. Heather was beautiful. She was sexy, determined, kind-hearted. Told you to cry. Adventurous, passionate, simply amazing. While preparing this talk, I was going through Heather and my's Facebook reel. I don't know if you knew, but we like Facebook a lot. I came across this neat post that she put on a page that I never read before, but it goes like this. It's pretty cool to y'all that are married and soon to be married. Marriage is ugly. You see the absolute worst in someone. You see them when they're mad, sad, being stubborn, where they're so unlovable, they make you scream. But you also get to see them when they're laughing so hard that tears are running down their face. And they can't help but let out those weird gurgling noises. You see them at 3 a.m. when the world is asleep, except the two of you. And you're eating in the middle of the kitchen floor. You get to see the side of them that nobody else does. It's not always pretty. It's snorting while laughing. I think I just did that. It's tears when it feels like it's just all crashing down. It's farting. It's bad head. It's bad breath. It's random dances. I'll say farting again because I heard somebody laugh. It's angry. It's the anger and the joy. Marriage isn't a beautiful thing, but it's amazing. It's knowing that someone loves you so much and won't leave you even though you said something nasty. It's loving someone, is having someone have your back no matter what. It's fights over stupid things like someone not doing the dishes or picking up after themselves, leaving socks where they don't need to be. I don't know anybody that ever did that. And it's not those nights you fall asleep in each other's, it is those nights you fall asleep in each other's arms, feeling like there will never be enough time with them. It's cleaning up, throwing up, clean up their throw up. I'm stumbling everywhere. It's just rubbing their back when they're sick. It's the dirtiest, hardest, most rewarding job there is. Because at the end of the day, you get to crawl in bed with your best friend. The weirdest, most annoying, loving, goofy person that you know. Marriage isn't beautiful, but it's heaven, one heaven of a ride. It's pretty neat, right? put that on my page, and I just found that. Huh. So I miss Heather. She was amazing. Haley misses Heather. Abby misses Heather. Olivia misses Heather. Evan misses Heather. Kennedy misses Heather. These five children were the most important beings on this earth to Heather. She would defend them whenever she felt they were not being treated fairly, ask people at the new community's pool, winning friends, influence others. She took care of business. She would encourage them to try new and fun stuff. She would teach them how to do things that will last and help them for the rest of their lives. Heather devoted what seemed like every waking moment to making sure that Hay, Abs, Livy, Ev, and Kenzo, Sir Yeep, I'm sorry, I wrote Sir Yeep, and Kenzo were just well-rounded, polite, well-spoken, loving children. Our children are great. Let's give them a hand too. These kids are great. Heather's the reason for that. I'm very biased, but I'm not embarrassed to say that these kids will live out Heather's legacy of loving others first, being kind to everyone, living as a servant leader, and putting others first. Did I say that twice? Yeah. Heather always made a point to make sure that the kids were encouraged, respected, valued, and most of all, loved. The activities that they were involved in made my head spin. I just did not get why they were doing stuff. I have some wonderful shoes to fill, but I'm going to have a blast trying to be half the mommy she was. As I read all the nice things that people said on our Facebook pages, I saw one common description of Heather. Just not a dozen or so, but like hundreds of people said, Heather was amazing. Just Heather was amazing, Heather was amazing, Heather was amazing. You know what Heather was? Amazing. And her legacy is amazing. She lived a fulfilling life, inspiring life. We can all genuinely say that Heather had made a very positive impact in our lives. We're all blessed to have had her in it. Here I go. You guys can join. Heather was so wonderful. Her heart was to help others. It was amazing. She strived to be there when somebody else needed help. Meals, be right there. Man, sometimes I was pretty pissed that she sent up some of these meals, like they were for me. Like she's like yanked the fork out of my mouth. It was very upsetting. But she was all about taking care of people. She wanted to be the first person in line and just wanted to be there so people were comforted. I swear, I think half the time on Facebook, she was looking for reasons to help. It was pretty neat. Heather would volunteer us for some crazy things to help. One day as Heather was leaving for work, she reminded me that we had volunteered to watch her friend's young twins so that her mommy could go to work. You know, we would love to help. In addition to our two older daughters, our twins, and the baby Kennedy, yeah, that was a good time. One time Heather and I took in a young lady and her infant from the hospital. This young lady had not spoken to Heather since high school, okay? My first question to Heather was, who is this? How do you know them? She had not spoken to this girl since high school. But here she was calling, the one person she knew and that would say yes, that wouldn't say no. A few hours later, Heather and I were heading down to the hospital. The lady told us she had hit some unfortunate times in her life, that she wouldn't be able to take the baby home unless they found a responsible adult to come, take responsibility for the young lady and her child. We became Auntie Heather and Uncle Tuan and helped that young lady get on her feet. When she was able to get on her feet, she did well. That's just the kind of thing that Heather did. We had a house guest for a month and a half. There's so many more stories that are out there. I'll leave you with those two. She'd be the one that jumped at the chance to help. She didn't do it for acclaim, though. You know, I'm telling you these stories. Most of you don't know them. You know, Heather didn't do things for that pat on the back, for the wow, look at Heather. You know, she didn't want it. That Heather just wanted to be there and lead by example. You know, it was awesome. It was awesome to see. Her biggest area to minister was interesting. It was to young women, which makes sense. Her desire to help them feel loved and to give refuge to specific ladies was pretty neat to see. I would come home to Heather on the couch talking to a young lady about her life and how things were. She would encourage them in their value, personal abilities, and the plain awesomeness of them. I mean, she would sit there for hours, listening, encouraging, motivating. I'd be hiding upstairs playing video games and loving on these young ladies. She made it a point to have these 3 words at the tip of her tongue when she got a call from someone who needed a friend. Come on over. And they did it, and it was cool to see. Heather has been very sick over the last several years. She had some crazy mutant form of diabetes that was uncontrollable. The doctors were in awe. They didn't know how to help her. It wasn't something that any of you guys would be familiar with or have experienced. It's uncontrollable. The kids and I would see Mom laying there on the couch, not able to move. She was in so much pain. It was just a bad place in her health-wise, and all we could do was pray for her. Heather would take insulin and still get sick. She would fall in something called DKA. Open up those cell phones, Google that, DKA. It sucks. If you know anybody that falls into that regularly, pray for them, get over to them, help them. She was always in and out of the hospital. You didn't know it. We didn't let you know. She didn't want you to. She didn't want to be known as the sickly person. She didn't want it to hinder her ability to help you and love you. And that's what she did. She was a strong, strong woman. Didn't have time for the woe is me nonsense. Ain't got time for that. If Heather set her mind on doing something, it got done. It was pretty cool to see. Watch Mama is going for it. Don't believe me? Check out our sweet house. Look at how happy and healthy these kids are. Look at these kids. Where are you guys? You're everywhere. All right. So, I'll leave you with a little part of one of our songs that, everybody has that song. Sweet like candy to my soul, sweet you rock and sweet you roll. Lost for you, I'm so lost for you. You can come. Go ahead, crash into me. So, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. We hear some songs.